So, good morning again. And today we're going to continue our series based on the book, The Universe Always Has a Plan, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go, written by Matt Kahn. And so today I want to just start off by having you reflect on what do breakups, flight cancellations, traffic jams, illness, leaky roofs, a loss of a loved one, and a decline in income all have in common? Loss. Things we didn't plan, or perhaps even want. Yes. What else? Anger. Yes. Frustration. Anybody fear? Worry? Grief? Right? All of those things. Things that we can become the victim to, right? Maybe, sometimes. And they are also opportunities, Paula, for spiritual transformation. They all have that in common. We know, as Jesus spoke, that we walk between the worlds, right? In this world, there will be trials and tribulations, but do not fear, I have overcome the world. And I say that one a lot, it's one of my favorites. And if you take that from the literal level, you will take it to mean that he overcame the world when he was crucified and ascended beyond this physical plane and lost his body. But no, his teachings were about love, loving thy neighbor, and about spiritual transformation. That's what his teachings were all about. So when we talk about spiritual transformation, I want to be clear that we're all coming from the same definition. But before we do that, spiritual transformation is all about what golden rule number 7 is in The Universe Always Has a Plan. And that is everything changes. But it can only change us, you, me, for the better. If you are willing and ready, right? We have free will to do that. So when we're talking about spiritual transformation, what are we actually talking about? In spiritual faith traditions, in spiritual books, you'll read many different things. And I really love Robert Brummett, minister, unity minister, and author, poet. In his book, Living Originally, he really, and he's not the only one, speaks about the difference between spiritual translation and spiritual transformation. Now, spiritual translation is all about what you will find in the book, The Secret, right? Also, just taking our principle number 3, I create. Through the words that I speak, the beliefs I hold, and the emotions I energize, all that with, I am a master, what? Manifester, creator. And yes, some of those teachings are very helpful to help us move and navigate in this physical world. And there is nothing wrong, because we do. We will need money to be in this physical world. Some of us will need a career, a roof over our heads. And so it is not something blasphemous to say that we practice being a great manifester. But really, the spiritual journey that many mystical teachers, Jesus, Buddha, taught about was something much deeper. It was about being the transformed from within. So spiritual translation is all about achieving making us deal with the physical circumstances of our lives to make them more palatable, more comfortable, and sometimes we need to do that. And it is usually the fueling behind that is our ego. And right now, you may say, what? You know, I need money to get by. That's not just so egoic. There's nothing evil about our ego. That's our personality self. We need it to navigate. But what happens is we allow that to be in the driver's seat of our lives and not being informed by our spiritual soul. And Robert Brummett in his definition takes us deeper about the transformational journey that we are all on. If we say yes to it, we will keep getting the knock on the door. It's just a matter, when am I ready and when am I willing? So it's about letting go of one's identity and one's present sense of reality to allow the emergence of much deeper identity and much more expansive self of reality. And it's all about not changing the decks, the chairs on the Titanic, so to speak, but it is about, this is a call to see how I might live more fully from my divine nature. This situation, when I lose all of my marbles because someone is driving too slow in front of me, is showing me where my ego is still in charge in my life, right? Anybody ever have that? And I hear a lot of laughs. And when we say yes to being transformed from within, we are inviting our soul in. We are saying yes to allowing our soul to take the lead. Spiritual transformation was what the Sermon on the Mount was all about when Jesus delivered that. All of the Beatitudes are about inner spiritual transformation. But I want to focus today on Beatitude number 2. Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 4. Now, usually when we see that, we think of, yes, change could be about loss, but they could also be about inconvenience and other things. We usually see that beatitude about someone dying in our lives. But what has happened is Jesus spoke in Aramaic. And that translation of all the Beatitudes in the King James Bible was in English. And then later on, from the biblical terms, it was translated in Greek, yeah, I'm saying that right. And Neil Douglas Klotz provides for us the Aramaic translation, which is what Jesus spoke. So what do you notice about what he gives us in this translation of the second beatitude? Ripe are those who feel at loose ends, coming apart at the seams. They shall be knit back together within. They don't say, you'll get all what you want, the perfect job, the perfect this, right? Also, look at this. It's rich. Healed are those who weep for their frustrated desires. They shall see the face of fulfillment in a new form. Be ye transformed, right? So, how does one knit back together from within? How shall you see the face of fulfillment in new form within you? How do we use challenge, adversity, inconvenience to spiritually transform? And so we're going to focus on 6 things that you can do. Now, we always know prayer meditation is a given. So here they are. Embrace your humanity. I loved when Paula said angry, right? Sometimes in spiritual circles, got to be positive. Don't say you're angry. Practice self-compassion. Invite, we have free will. Invite your divine soul to lead you instead of allowing your conditioning of your personality self, aka ego, to be the one in the driver's seat. Practice being meditated, not medicated. It does say, I had to read that a couple times when some of this, I've intertwined unity stuff with this, but when I was reading it in the book first, I'm like, mediated? Medicated? No, it says meditated. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. Hold on to that. Let inconvenience be your ally instead of your enemy. And then this journey of inviting challenge and change and adversity, inconvenience to be the doorway to inner transformation is an ongoing thing. It is not easy, and it is something you are being asked to be remain steadfast and committed to. So number 1 and 2, I know I've spent some time, right? So what does it mean to practice our humanity? That is whatever you are feeling, right? We're going to be disappointed. We're going to be frustrated, upset, sad. And whatever the circumstance elicits within you, embrace it. Now, I'm not saying have a pity party for yourself for a whole year. Well, if you're dealing with a tragic loss, there's no, we create time, right? But allow yourself to feel it, to embrace it, acknowledge it. And then give yourself some self-compassion. We've talked about self-compassion. And there's a difference between self-compassion, self-care, pampering kind, go getting your nails done, getting your toenails done, massage. Not that those aren't all good, but engaging in self-compassion is being in holy communion with you. It's embracing your humanity instead of cursing it. It's saying things like, I know this is really tough. I know you're really disappointed. This is really tough stuff right now. And sometimes as I walk and have my way and live with my mom, I am saying that a lot. I love her to death. It's my soul growth. It's not about her, it's about me, right? When I'm repeating something for the 5th and 6th time, even though she's not senile, sometimes my ego will rear its head. I've told you that 500 times, frustrated. Oh no, okay, guess who's in charge now, Ange? It's not about my mom. So I take a deep breath, right? So sometimes I'm like, okay, deep breath, this is hard, this can be annoying sometimes, but no, okay, dig deeper. So now I want us to look at inviting our soul in to lead the way. So you need to distinguish between having the awareness of here's a challenge, whether it be a flight cancellation, a leaky roof, or whatever, and how would the ego embrace it or deal with it or not deal with it versus when we invite our soul into, right? So we usually see resistance. Nope, this is not happening. I don't want it to happen. La 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 la, I can't hear you. La 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 la, I can't see you. Plays the victim or blames other people for what's happening. Wants the outside world to change, wants people and circumstances to change because they are what bring us happiness. That new job, the new house, all of that. This is one I really want to spend some time with. Equates hardship with punishment. You may say, punishment? No, I don't do that. Have you ever found yourself in your life when something happened? Like, wow, I'm such a good person. I try to be like a good person. I pray daily, meditate. Like, is there really a God? When my father, in the months before my father got sick and then eventually passed, he had leaky roof, bad. He needed to get his whole roof replaced. He also had his pipes, my childhood house, the pipes burst. Okay, an 85-year-old man who was trying to slow down was now being faced with these impermanence of this world and having to deal with money, right? Challenges that come up with money and things about our security in this physical world. And he would often say to me about the pandemic, you know, this pandemic is stealing the golden years of my life. And I would be present with him, breathe with him. And he said, you know, Ange, I say my prayers every day. I just don't understand. Like, is God really there? I've been there myself. And in that moment, I said, yeah, it's really hard. It wasn't about me giving him a spiritual lesson. It was about me hugging him, letting him know how hard this was, how hard he's worked his whole life to provide for his family. And then I prayed with him. And he wept like a baby. And he just said, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We live in an impermanent world. Crap happens. Even things that we would categorize worse than a leaky roof. Losing my father, right? And we hold that. And we hold to our faith in these times. Also, from the ego, we seek for self-preservation. Okay, I have this challenge, you know, like here, maybe within the spiritual community, sometimes you get a report about the trend of decline in our finances. Do you walk with the ego or from the faith of your soul? Right? As the minister, do I say, oh boy, you better start looking for another job. You don't know how many more paychecks you're going to get. Now, let me tell you, I'm not saying I don't live in this world, and that may be something that may happen. I don't know. But then I call myself and say, why are you doing what you're doing? It's not about a paycheck. Trust me. Not that I don't appreciate what I do, but it is about the love of community. It is the love of this community that has existed for over 70 years. It is the love of the Fillmore's teachings, the unity teachings, and the difference it has made in other people's lives. And so I step in faith. Will the technology work? I don't know. But I'm going to come up here and do what I want to do out of my heart, out of my soul. In a couple weeks, we're going to have a service called Will You Walk in Faith with Me? And I'll give more about that. What are you holding when you see that, right? So when the soul, we allow it, we self-reflect. I wonder what this trend or whatever is showing up is here to teach me, is here to teach us. Where are we calling to let go of stuff, and where are we being called to step into something much greater? Not just the we have to start with me. What am I being called to do? And instead of playing the victim, it just is. We observe, right? From the soul, it's like, okay, it's not good or bad. It just is. And it's an opportunity to look for the good or mine for the gold in everything. And it's looking to serve the whole and not just myself and self-preservation. Every man, woman, person for themselves. And the giving is unconditionally. Rather than me putting a nest egg together, I'm like, okay, well, we need blinds, I'll buy the blinds. We need this, I'll buy this, I'll buy this. I will tithe to this. I will, if I'm happy about something, and I'm not just saying this to tell you a pat on the back, I'm telling you I'm walking this walk with you. That's how it shows up, because it is something greater than me. It is about community. It's about spiritually transforming. It has transformed my life. And I hope in whatever small way that one or more of the teachings, whether it was me or someone else that served here or someone sharing here in this community, has helped you in some way. A prayer. Amen. So, why is it important to know and know when we're showing up as our ego or showing up as our divine soul? It gives us the contrast, right? Because guess what? Something happens. We are physically wired. Our nervous system is jolted, right? We get bad news. It's a charge to our system. When we feel grief, you feel in your body. You may even feel your legs give out. And something automatically, what? The reptilian brain kicks in for our survival. So we will go to those things, right? The blame, all that goes right out. So knowing that ahead of time can help us know when we are in it. I was in traffic. It was a long day. I went to go pick up a prescription for my mom, and on my way back, I was hungry, I was tired, and there was a traffic jam. Well, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, blah, 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 I'm so hungry, I'm so tired. And then all of a sudden it was like, hello. You know, when you were reading the book and Matt Kahn was telling you how he used the example of This Is Us didn't record one night for him and he lost his marbles, you were like, wow, that's a little crazy. And here you are like 5 minutes from your home in a traffic jam and you're losing yours. Like, hello ego. So I took a deep breath and I started blessing the people. Thank you we're going to do our thank you notes again, right? Thank you, universe, for showing me where my ego is still in charge. Thank you I looked at all the men who were fixing the telephone wires. Thank you. Thank you for making our community more safe. It totally shifts your energy. And then I went into some stillness, because really, how important was that, right? I wasn't going to die of hunger, trust me. So Matt Kahn also talks about contrast being so important. To become a willing participant to being transformed by change, adversity, and inconvenience, you must know what it means to be an unwilling participant, right? You know when you're being unwilling, and if you're practicing being mindful enough, like I caught myself in traffic, it's like, oh boy, here we go. All right. So this takes us to the fourth thing we can do when we're faced with adversity, inconvenience, change, challenge. Now we talk about meditation and the importance of meditation. And Matt Kahn gives us something called being meditated. And he makes a distinction, okay? He said the state of meditation is something we do that we schedule at a certain time of the day in a certain place, whether it be your bedroom, your living room, the yoga studio. It's done with closed eyes, my favorite way, I just have to say it. And he says it includes negotiating for a more favorable circumstance. What does that mean? That is when we begin saying, I affirm that, let's say, there's more income flowing. I have the right and perfect job. Now, there is a time and place for this, so I'm not making this wrong or bad, but he's also wanting to give you something else to include in your spiritual practice, which we'll get to in just a moment. He shares meditation is not about making a negotiation. Meditation is what happens when when negotiation dissolves. Show me what I'm supposed to see. I have no agenda, right? So he gives something called the practice of being meditated, and he says, as we go through our lives, how often do we close our eyes when we're dealing with all these things? But it's more than that. It's about a state of being. So he talks about being meditated, and there is something called an open eye meditation. It is tapping into the stillness. It is something you practice all day long. It doesn't matter where you are, what time of the day it is. Eyes open. Can you practice, eyes open, looking around at the men, blessing them? Thank you. You don't have to say it out loud. Whatever it is, I'm willing. Thank you for allowing me to see that I'm being called home to my soul. But something simple, just thank you. Thank you for this gift. Tapping into the breathing, finding the stillness. He says the whole purpose of being meditated is about not just cultivating stillness, it is to be the stillness, which is what Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, spoke about. He didn't talk about eyes open, but that the purpose of it is to tap in to stillness, to be stillness. And I love this beautiful quote that Matt Kahn shares about stillness. You could read along with me. As stillness is cultivated, you want to allow the meditation to be done to you. All you need to do is to sit and simply listen. You may hear sounds to confirm that you are listening. Even if you don't hear anything, the fact that you hear nothing means listening remains active. Whether you hear something or nothing, listening always an uninterrupted state of being known as stillness. To deepen your awareness of stillness, please repeat these words out loud. So we're going to say it one time as is. I invite you to read this with me. Together. I am stillness itself, not the one trying to be still. And anything that seems to disrupt stillness is simply the experience stillness is noting. Just like no noise interrupts listening, noise is simply what listening listens to. And even when there's nothing to hear, it's only noticeable because listening continues. Only stillness is the listener. And because I am the one listening, stillness can only be what I am. Let's take a deep breath. Allow your heart to breathe in and to breathe out. Let's read that last line together from the depth of your heart. Stillness could only be what I am. Again, stillness can only be what I am. Stillness can only be what I am. You could replace that with anything as open-eyed meditation. Faith, divine faith, is the only thing I am. Divine love, right? You can see what you're trying to call up in any moment. And that brings us to, once we practice being meditated, right, moving through our day with that intention, we can then even use any inconvenience to be our ally rather than our enemy. They are great practice opportunities, right? So let's look what he says about inconvenience. The biggest problem with inconvenience is you're being forced to spend more time where you did not plan to be. As a result of being in a position of spending more time where you didn't plan to be, believe it or not, you received a gift. You're going to be where you didn't plan to be, around people you didn't plan to be around. And you'll have the opportunity to become better, if you so choose, as a result. The question is, are you willing to let go and be transformed? Are you willing to let go and be transformed? Wow, we can do a little bit better than that. Well, maybe I shouldn't force your willingness, okay? There you go. So I want to bring up this list, right? You have your own list. Start with, those things that you would consider lesser of the evils, right? If we want to really be able to practice that in this loss of my beloved is a blessing, practicing with those other things that, the traffic, a flight cancellation, someone doesn't show up for their lunch reservation with you. Although disappointing and inconvenient, are a little easier to begin practice so that the more we are in this state of accepting everything as an opportunity to transform, that when those things that come up that are quote unquote bigger in our lives, we are in that state of constant spiritual practice of allowing. And so I'd like to end. So the last thing is just like all of the spiritual practices, asking you to be steadfast and committed. It's not easy, right? But nevertheless, are you willing? Are you willing to do these things as spiritual practice, embracing your humanity, self-compassion, really recognizing, stopping throughout the day, is my soul in charge? Is my ego in charge? Meditation practice, being meditated practice, accepting inconvenience, all of those are saying yes to being willing to be transformed. And so we close today, and I invite you to read this poem written by Kathleen Jessie Rain. I put the word transform, sheep had change, kind of mean the same thing, but I just want to really drive home transformation about the inner change, which is really what this kind of reflects. So if you want to read it with me, please do. If you want to be silent, do that as well. So here we go. Transform, said the sun to the moon, you cannot stay. Transform, says the moon to the waters, all is flowing. Transform, says the fields to the grass, seed time and harvest, chaff and grain. You must transform, said the worm to the bud, though not to petals fade, that wings may rise, borne on the wind. You are transforming, said death to the maiden, your wan face to memory, to beauty. Are you ready to transform, says the thought to the heart, to let her pass? All your life long for the unknown, the unborn, in the alchemy of the world's dream? You will transform, said the stars to the sun, says the night to the stars. And so it is, my friends. May you have a blessed week of many opportunities. Namaste.